You are joining us on Following on Ashes Inquest. I'm Jon Norman alongside Steve Harmison for the next hour on talkSPORT 2, the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, and also available shortly after we go off air on the Following on podcast feed. Steve Harmison is with me. Harmy, so you say we've got a chance?
I think, yeah. I mean, why not? Why not? Do you know what? We talked a lot about Australia in the first two test matches being given a chance by England. England have given themselves another chance to have a foothold in a test match like they did in Perth and Brisbane. And hopefully they learn from mistakes that they made in the first two test matches, because this wicket is the perfect wicket to bat on. I thought it started a bit slowly. It started a bit tacky and sticky. I thought England's hit the deck bowlers, bowled in a decent area at the start, got Australia into a position, an excellent innings by Alex Carey. But I think England have had a good day so far. And two early wickets tomorrow with a second new ball. And England bat in the best conditions possibly for batting in. And all the talk of Lyon and Cummins coming back, England can bat Australia to a position where Lyon and Cummins won't really take an effect, hopefully in the test match later down the line. So it's all set up for England and giving themselves a chance to be back in the series.
Harmy, would it surprise you to hear that CricViz have got the Australia win down as 73% on?
73% for Australia. Well, it surprised me a little bit, but I mean, you know what? When you look at these WinViz things and percentage this and percentage that, I mean, the game's not played in sort of hypothetical and what potentially a computer thinks. It's about somebody going and taking ownership of that situation in that time, whether it's bat and ball. For me, I think England have took ownership in this situation very, very well, giving themselves a chance. And it's about one of England's batters, two of England's batters like Khawaja and Carey did, and stand up and be counted and make a big, big score on a wicket, which you'll probably not get a better one in Australia to bat on. So I'm surprised at 75%, but they're just seeing numbers on a scorecard. I think when you see both teams batting on it, hopefully England can do their job when it comes to the batting. And this time tomorrow, if England are 75% chance of winning, then we are in a brilliant position in the test match, because it means we've batted well and we've taken responsibility.
Did England bowl well, or did Australia bat really, really badly? Alex Carey and Usman Khawaja aside.
That's a really good question. I thought England started quite well. I thought Archer's new ball spell. I think we probably come to a Jofra Archer, but I think we have to give a huge amount of credit to Jofra off the back of the criticism that I think was, some of it was just, some of it was unjust, but I think question marks were made over England's spearhead, and I think he stood up in this game. I thought his pace was up. I thought his ability to bowl right-handers and left-handers, especially the left-handers, from around the wicket was very, very good. Pass was Cars. You know, he bowled some good balls. He bowled some scattergun balls. He took a couple of good catches. I think Australia will look back at their wicket dismissals and, like England, and really scratch their heads. Weatherall looks as though he's out of his depth. It was a poor shot by Head. Labuschagne first ball after a break wasn't the greatest of shots. And you look at Khawaja and Green, they weren't the greatest of shots either. So I think they helped England, some of their shot execution. But I think some of England's pressure when it comes to the bowling side of it was very, very good.
It felt like a middle over, the middle overs of an ODI at times today. You know, England had Australia 94 for 4 when it was a really strange day. Labuschagne and Green going inside 3 balls of the afternoon session, undoing all the hard work that Labuschagne and Khawaja had done towards the back end of the first session when Weatherall and Head went with a score on 33. But will England not be a little bit disappointed that they allowed Australia to score another near on 100 yeah, 200, 230, 227 for the loss of 4 wickets. And what does that say about this pitch as well? Because England will be disappointed maybe, but will also take heart from that.
I think that's why I'm encouraged that England are in a good position, because there was something there for the New World Ball. I think it started a bit with a bit of moisture in it. As I said before, it started a bit tacky. Your ability to hit through the line of the ball wasn't quite there. We've seen that with Green's dismissal. So I think if you can get through this, and this is the big thing for England, if you can get through that first 30 overs and you can absorb the game like what we used to, all of a sudden you can make here. And I think that's all Australia did. England put the ball in the right area, built up some pressure. Australia, didn't handle that pressure that well. Then all of a sudden, when it got flat and when it got soft, the ball, I mean, Khawaja and Carey especially playing on his home ground, the dimensions of the ground, shots. You can play, you can't play. Scoring areas in the sort of pockets of the dimensions of the ground, run hard between the wickets. All these fundamental things you need when bowlers are bowling good spells. I think that will encourage, and it should encourage England if they have learned from the way that Khawaja and Carey went about their job. So I think it was a good bowling performance, and I'm encouraged by where England are. But Australia played smart in that middle period, capitalised when the ball went soft, and all of a sudden put themselves, still within a fighting chance. 326 is a lot of runs, but it's only a lot of runs if England don't come out and bat with their heads tomorrow, as opposed to potentially coming out kamikaze style and think short boundaries, balls flat, balls soft, pitches flat. And all of a sudden, they chip a few up in the air and put themselves under pressure against a good bowling line.
We've got some mixed reaction on the talkSPORT cricket YouTube chat facility. Shreyas and Pandy says, an eventful day, good to see fight from English, yet Aussies on top. Shreyas seems to be saying 60-40 in favour of Australia. Sai Sandeep says, traditional day of cricket, England would be happy at the end of the day. Halo says, Christ, that was poor batting by the Aussies. Skywalker says, day one optimism as always. Harmy, remember at day one at Perth, Australia in trouble. Well, they won it within 24 hours. And Bismoy99 says, England will struggle to get 300 with Cummins and Lyon back. We've got plenty of topics to discuss, but Nathan Lyon, for me, there is a really, really interesting player now, because Will Jacks actually did get some bounce and he got some turn. That dismissal of Carey doesn't look good. It looks like a tired shot. He's on the sweep, he top edges it, and he's caught for 105. But actually, when you watched it in replay, the ball, there was some movement there away from the left-hander. Now, it's an obvious thing to say, but that doesn't mean it isn't true. But if Will Jacks can take a couple of wickets, get a bit of bounce, get a bit of spin, then what can Nathan Lyon do?
Yeah, I mean, Nathan Lyon is a world-class performer. He's played over 140 test matches. He's got nigh on 600 wickets. It doesn't need to turn for Lyon to be effective. For the simple fact is, he's experienced. He knows how to be a containing bowler. So that's the challenge. England haven't got a Nathan Lyon, a Shane Warne. They've never been in that position when England have gone to Australia. We've always struggled to produce a spin bowler that can, other than Graham Swan, that we can go to Australia that can potentially attack and potentially and hold when the ball's not turning. But the beauty about the situation England find themselves in now is always talk about Lyon coming back. If England play well from here over the next 48 hours, Lyon's effectively out of the game, as in the threat to win the game. Because if England can bat well in this sort of day 2, day 3 period, all of a sudden, if they can get 150 runs in front, 100 runs in front, then the latter part of the game won't be as dangerous if they're chasing 260, 270. If they're chasing 120, 150, then that's what England have got to be hoping. And that then takes Nathan Lyon a little bit more out of the game. So these are the things that a score of 350 on a good pitch in the first innings will do for not only England's confidence, but to nullify one of Australia's potent weapons on a Tier 4, Tier 5 surface.
It's asking a lot, though, isn't it? I mean, let's just say that Australia come out tomorrow and they bat for half an hour before being bowled out and they make 340. England are going to have to bat all day tomorrow. And they're going to have to probably, if you're talking about a target of 150, they're going to have to, they're going to have to hit 500. What have you seen from this England team that suggests they're going to hit 500?
At this moment, nothing. But you've also got, who would have, after Jofra Archer bowled last week and all the criticism that he got, who would have said Jofra Archer would come out and bowl, get 3 for 29 off 16 overs?
Hey, I defended Jofra Archer.
Yeah, and where he was last week. So it just shows you, and I keep banging on about preparation, but England are now in a position where they are probably ready for the first test match. They're probably ready for their first innings in a test match arena and a test match day. So what gives me hope is that it's a flat pitch. Didn't really bounce that much.
No, bounce was
very
odd.
little. Yeah, if anything, it was a little bit lower and a little bit
didn't get up
inconsistent.
enough. I thought so.
Yeah, so from that, England bat well on these surfaces. Short square of the wicket. So the short ball, the technical short ball that a Cummins might have or a Stark might go to, then that's not really in the game because England should be able to hit it for 6 with 58 metres and 60-metre boundaries either side. So, and this team is very, very good when their backs are against the wall. We've seen it in the past. Now it's a very, very good bowling unit. So, and you know what, John? When you're playing for your career and you're playing for the group of people who you've been with for so long and been criticised for the last 2 or 3 weeks, that's when character stands up. This is what Ben Stokes is probably saying at the end of the second test match. This is where weak men don't just lie down. This is where weak men come out, show their teeth, put their chests out, and really sort of come back hard at the opposition. And that will be proof in the pudding come 24 hours' time when we're talking again. And that needs to be England, possibly 300 for 4, 300 for 3, 300 for 4, giving the tail a chance to have a bit of fun towards the end of the innings, first innings, with some tired bowlers. That has got to be England's mentality. That has got to be England's plan. And it's also got to be the big buzzword on the dressing room wall as they go out, is take responsibility. Get in. If you get in on this surface, you can go big, and that's what England have got to do, because the last thing England need is to play a couple of cheap shots, kamikaze style, and give their wickets away like they have been doing. Hopefully they'll learn from their mistakes.
Stokes absolutely balls that new ball situation. He could have had 2 with Archer and 1 with him, but no, he wanted to be the hero, says Two Beards Gaming. I did find that last 3 overs slightly strange. It didn't look like Archer really wanted to take the new ball, but of course he did. Maybe he just preferred that end. And then Stokes took, as Two Beards Gaming says, took 2 overs with the new ball. And it just looked like England were absolutely knackered, which I'm sure they were, because they've all bowled a lot and it's very, very hot out there. But part of me thought, well, Australia weren't going anywhere. Why not just continue with the old ball, and then you got the new ball fresh tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, in them situations, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah,
as a captain,
absolutely.
You look around the room and you go, right, and you try and catch the eye of the bowlers. And if I'm sure Michael in our lot will be looking and thinking, right, where's Army? Fine leg. What's he moving like? From overs probably 75 to 80, Michael Vaughan in my time would have been looking and going, right, how's Fred moving at slip? Where's Simon? What's he moving like? Has Hoggy stiffened up yet? Is Army looking as though he's interested in sort of picking a handbrake off for a couple of overs? And then you'd start working out, right, how long can I give them in getting them warmed up and revved up? Who's moving the best? And I think Stokes might have just thought, you know what? I actually feel quite good here. I probably look better than what Archer does. Jofra's had a big morning, And it's getting towards the end of the day, and he's thrown everything at that first morning where he probably doesn't have that gear 5 in him. He might just have gear 3 in him. But he's Jofra Archer, and I might need to sort of, show the fact that Jofra might just be able to get a wicket because it's his presence. What's Carse looking like? He's another one that's put a shift in the field, done a lot of running around. He's only bowled 13 overs, Carse, but he did a lot of running around and sort of from a fielding position, extra cover mid-wicket and stuff like that. It's been a hot day. And I think Ben probably got to a position going, right, I probably feel the best at this moment in time because I've just been bowling. I'm going to take it, give it to Jofra, and if I have to have 2, I'll take 2. He possibly might have been thinking he was only going to get 2 overs with a new ball. Because he got 3, it looks as though because he's took 2 overs. And I think that's probably what was going through Ben's mind at that time. He was probably looking at Josh Tongue and thinking, he's done his race, he's run his race for today. And I might have to just ask Jofra to bowl 1 over because he's Jofra, and the presence might just pick up, a wicket.
Varun Gandhi says, why did we see so many ODI type wickets today? There were rarely any bowled, just that inside edge from Inglis, if memory serves. LBWs or nicks into the slips. Brooke did put down 1 slip catch, but the point is true. People got out playing mistimed shots within the inner circle, and this is, when you say tomorrow that England should be able to target those short square boundaries, you're not going to, you're going to be hitting it into the stands rather than getting caught inside the rope. Usman Khawaja was caught inside the rope. Alex Carey was caught inside the rope. Labuschagne clipped one to mid-wicket. Green clipped one to mid-wicket. There just seems to be something in this. Well, there certainly was today. Just a bit of inconsistent bounce. So if that remains tomorrow, and chances are actually the bounce might be a little truer and the pitch a little faster on day 2. But it's not the Adelaide pitch that I suppose on day 1 we were expecting when Australia won the toss.
Well, I think if you look at the wickets in isolation, I think in the first 25 overs, because there was a little bit of moisture and tackiness, like I said, which always happens now in surfaces because you can't put water on during a test match day's play. I think a lot of the surfaces start a little bit moist, and I think that's why Ben likes to bowl first a lot of the time. And I think if you look at some of the wickets, there were shots which were the batters expecting the ball to come on that little bit more, come onto the bat a little bit more true of bounce, like you say, a bit of inconsistency. And I think what you'll find over the next 2 days is the pitch getting harder because of the sun baking it. Whether there's any little indentations, because sometimes, especially tall bowlers that hit the deck, there's little indentations come in surfaces which have got a little bit of moisture in. And then as that test match goes on, the pitch gets baked and this roller starts taking effect. Then become dangerous because you could hit the top end of one and it rears up, or you could hit the back end of one and it keeps low. So I don't know what that surface is going to be like on that front because we're not there. But what you've seen in the wickets, you've seen a ball which I think Weatherall thought it was going to get a bit higher and he got cramped for room. But like I said before, I just think Weatherall's out of his depth. I don't think he's that good. I looked at heads that sat in the surface and he was leaning back a touch. Cameron Green was hitting way out in front of himself because he's expecting the ball to come on a little bit more and it was sitting in. So I think that moisture inside the surface in the first sort of hour or 2, I don't think it paints a true reflection of what this pitch is going to be like over the course of the next 2 or 3 days. And who's the other one? And Labuschagne, and I think Labuschagne was done for pace, first ball after a break. Yeah, he was expecting that ball to come off the pitch a little bit faster. He was expecting there was a bit more pace on the ball from the bowler, and he just played a poor shot. Yeah, Harry Brooks style from the last test match. So I think when you look at the wickets in the first 4 wickets, I think the surface that there was at that time had a little bit more slowy, stoppy bounce. And I think that will come out of the pitch as the sun bakes on it and the test match goes on.
Al95 says, Aussie here, England's day for sure. Still a long way to go, but I would rather be in England's England's position. And yeah, I mean, it's a similar score to what we saw at the end of day one at the Gabba. And of course, Australia did go on to score 500 plus across day 2 and 3 and bat England out the game. And we all know what happened at the Gabba. In terms of the Australian bowlers, because again today, Jofra Archer aside, who I thought bowled fantastically well, consistent lines and lengths, good pace, got the wickets, but also hardly went for a run. You know, Josh Tongue, first spell really good, second spell less so, then came back strongly with that wicket of Inglis. Bryden Carr's first 4 overs were a horror, and it seemed like Ben Stokes was reluctant to bring him back. And that's why that Josh Tongue dismissal of Inglis was really important, because at that point, you know, Carey and Inglis had put on 60-odd for the 6th wicket, and it was just looking again like Australia were just pushing things back towards a position where, you know, it was going to be their day. And then Will Jacks essentially did what Shoaib Bashir would do. He was expensive and he got 2 men caught on the boundary. That's exactly what we saw from Bashir. So, but of course, he's going to have some batting to come as well. So having a look at the pitch, and, you know, even if it does flatten out a touch, which of the Australian fast bowlers do you think will be most suited to bowling on that pitch?
Well, early on, obviously Stark will use the new ball well, because he'll move it through the air and move it laterally. Mitch Stark doesn't really need his surface to be dangerous and effective. He comes into his own when the ball's newer. I think if Cummins and Boland were on that surface first thing this morning, I think there could have been a challenge, because the inconsistency of bounce and a little bit sideways movement from the sort of moisture wicket. So now it's not about who be effective on this pitch. It's how England play them types of bowlers. Australia will have a game plan of hanging it out at full stump, drivable, 4.5, 5 metre mark, which Boland and Cummins do very, very well, with little bits of angles, using the crease, wide of the crease, close to the stumps, and try and move the ball back in towards off stump and away from off stump, and basically say to England, right, if you want to be the big driver, off you go. So I think there'll be a lot more of a patience game from Australia, as opposed to, you talked about the way Carr's bowled, you talked about Tongue bowled, and you were absolutely spot on, 100%. England had more maverick type wicket taker, not bowling to a plan, and just every ball's an event. I think that's Josh Tongue and Bryden Carr, where I think they'll be a little bit more thoughtful on how Australia are going to bowl to England, and basically say, we're going to shut one side of the ground down, we're going to bowl at 4th or 5th stump from 25 overs out, and say, right, can you go at 3 and over? Because we don't think you can. And I think Boland and Cummins especially will hit that 4.5, 5 metre mark and say, right, pick me on if you want to drive. If there is any consistency of bounce, good luck hitting it to the fence. And I think because of that, I think England will have to use their heads, something they haven't been able to do in this test series so far. So I would imagine that will be the plan from Australia's point of view. And Nathan Lyon will just wheel away at one end and hopefully do the Will Jacks role, but all 20 overs for sort of 50, 60. And England, will they go after them? Time will tell.
Nasty Badger says, England has no team bowling. Each operate on their own and lack that incision. But he also says it's a good batting wicket. It does feel like that at times. And also, I found some of Stokes' captaincy today slightly baffling. And I could hear Matt Pryor on TNT commentary felt the same. He couldn't work out what they were trying to do. It seemed like it was around the 35 over stage. England had them 4 down. And they seemed to move away from essentially what had got them the wicket. They were going funky fields, very, very heavily populated field square of the wicket, and essentially they were just knocking it around. It really felt like the middle overs of an ODI game on more than one occasion today. Singles were really, really comfortable to get throughout, and that was partly because Will Jackson's bowling. That's something, as defensive fields for him as well, and then these kind of short ball fields for Tongue and Cast, but I'm not sure that they can always bowl to those plans. Another comment that's come in, I've lost the... Oh, yeah, so Sandeep says, should have given Tongue the new ball at the start of the day. Again, that was something that came to mind, and I wouldn't be that surprised if at the start of the second innings, it's Tongue who takes the new ball alongside Jofra Archer.
Yeah. We were having a few messages last night, and I'd open the ball with Stokes. In this formula, the way England's bowlers are situated in the side, I think Stokes is the new ball bowler. I really do. I think I'd give it to Ben, pitch it up, give it a chance to swing. Ben's expensive, Tongue's expensive, Carter's expensive. But I think when it comes to the new ball and getting the ball to move laterally, I think Ben bowls a fuller length. And in Australia, probably a better length with a new ball than Tongue and Carter, who drive the ball into the pitch a little bit more. So for me, as much as, yes, you're possibly right, that Tongue would have been a better option than Carter, I think Ben Stokes should utilise the new ball with Jofra Archer, and then Tongue and Carter coming back. And just sometimes worry that Ben might think they're two bowlers who are very, very similar, and if one doesn't quite get it right after the first 10, 12 overs, it's very, very samey when it comes to Tongue and Carter. So I agree. Brydon Carter is not a natural new ball bowler. He's a first change bowler, try and break a partnership up, and he bowls wicket-taking balls. Remember, he got Travis Head out as much as he didn't hit his straps in that early part. He got the man out that England fear the most with Steve Smith not playing. So he does get he does bowl wicket-taking balls, and he gets good players out.
This is following on Ash's Inquest on talkSPORT 2 and the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. I'm Jon Norman, alongside Steve Harmison, and I'm pleased to say Brad Hogg, former Australian spinner and World Cup winner, is with us. Brad, well, first things first, Alex Carey, a brilliant century. What a turnaround. He was one innings away from getting jettisoned from the Australian team, wasn't he? He was very close, sailing very close to the wind. And then he played a come-from-behind knock against New Zealand. He's not looked back. He was brilliant with the gloves at the Gabba. He's already scored some vital runs. And then to score 100 on his home ground in front of his wife, his family, so soon after the passing of his father, it was quite a moment, and a really, really important innings.
Oh, definitely. I think he's just one of the class acts of Australian keepers that we've had going around with the bat as well. But I really enjoyed the contest with he and Jofra Archer. That was a big turning point in the game, big turning point in the innings, and that him getting through that tough period got Australia in the position they're actually in now. And I don't think Australia should be in this position. Cast didn't bowl well with the new ball. And through that middle period, they just let Carey get away with scoring too freely. So they should have been able to apply a little bit more pressure there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are saying that it's England's day, that, they can just battle day two, and a lead of 100 on first innings. That would negate the threat of line in fourth innings, and away we go. 2-1 down, 2 to play. But from what you saw, how did you see that pitch, and how do you think it's going to play moving forward? And who's going to be the big threats when it comes to Australia's bowlers?
Well, definitely Cummins coming back in, but I think England, if they're really smart about it, they just wear Cummins down because he's not match fit. Boland, they can get on top of Boland there, so it's just Mitchell Starc and Nathan Lyon that they've got to be wary about, but they've got to bat smart. Day 2 at Adelaide is going to be the best time to bat. They've got to make the use of it. They've got to bat all day and try and bat deep into day 3 and hopefully have a short spell out Australia late day 3. And then go hard at them on day 4. You want Jofra Archer to have a short spell on the third night and fourth morning.
You know, the wickets that Australia give away, they were a little bit symptomatic of where England have been in this series so far. I mean, Weatheralds wasn't a great shot. I think he looks a little bit out of his depth, and Khawaja getting runs, potentially with Smith coming back, might be Weatherald out of the team. But there were some poor dismissals and shot execution from Australia.
Oh, exactly right. I agree with you with Weatherald there. He's under a little bit of pressure the way that he played Jofra Archer. Should have been a defensive stroke there. Travis Head, England weren't getting him on the front foot, and when they got him on the front foot, he looked a little bit vulnerable there too, and they got him out there with Cars pitching at Fuller, and those two shots straight after lunch by Labuschagne and Green are just not Test match standards. You've got to build your innings again after lunch and really bury the opposition bowling attack when they're not quite on song.
How do you think Nathan Lyon's going to go in this Test match, Brad?
Oh, look, I think he's going to go really well. We saw Jax spin a few. I think Nathan Lyon's got more revolutions on the ball, more overspin, so he's going to get bounce and turn. So the left-handed batters that are in play have to watch that outside edge, but the short boundaries, if they can sweep well, they can really put pressure on Nathan Lyon. And also that bat pad man to the right-handed batsman, if he's coming over the wicket, he's going to be a player or a position that they've got to watch. So they've got to be very good on their feet, play deep in the crease, working for ones. And when he looks to pitch it a little bit fuller because England are playing back, come down and try and get to the pitch of the ball and put pressure back on Nathan Lyon and make Pat Cummins go back to the quicks.
And what about Usman Khawaja? Because that's a story and a half, isn't it? I think most people felt that his international career was over after he was omitted from the side. But now, after that 82, we don't know what's going to happen in second innings. And with the fact that that top order, or rather the opening duo, don't look quite right for me. I understand Travis Head as opener in the first test of the summer. I wasn't quite so sure about it at the Gabba, and now we find ourselves in a position where maybe, depends what happens here, maybe it actually makes more sense for Khawaja to stick around, and with 82 in the bank, that's a good argument for exactly that. Put him back up the order, put Head back down the order. Inglis for me looks like a keeper batter, but not a top six batter on his own. But Khawaja, though, again, that is quite a story, isn't it? And it was a surprise actually when he got out.
Yeah, look, it was a big surprise, and he's probably got to go up and thank Harry Brook and take him out for dinner tonight, because Brook, for a Brook standard, that was a simple catch. And when you've got someone on the back foot like that, you really got to take those catches. And that's one area where England have let this Ashes series slip away at this present moment. They've got to fight back in that regard. But I've penciled Khawaja for the Australian selectors to get him out of the Australian setup now, start building for the future, the next generation, and you've got to try and keep Weatherald in there. He's played one or two good innings, but give him a little bit more of an opportunity. And if Khawaja can go up there and open with him again, he might be able to just give a little bit of experience with Weatherald out the other end, because Khawaja is very good at leaving the ball. And that's something that Weatherald's got to add to his game. And I agree with you. Travis Head looks out of sorts opening the batting at the present moment. He's playing from the crease. He's looking to be on the back foot. He's not looking to get forward. And if you're opening the batting against a new ball when it moves a lot, you've got to look to get forward.
And two of the worst shots in the entire series have been played by the bloke who's just signed for whoever it is in the IPL for about £1 billion. How does that work?
These things happen. People just get a little bit of excited at some stages, and Cameron Green's one of those particular players. I think he's just excited to be back in the Australian team, fully fit, and I just think he's getting a little bit overawed. How do I actually play? And you don't play like that backing away in Test cricket, and the shot that he played today, he's got to be a little bit more selective than that. So for me, he's got to turn things around very quickly and start playing Test cricket rather than being in that white ball mode, because you just can't be backing away that far in Test cricket. It's embarrassing.
I know you used to have a kind of a mystic, clairvoyant character back in the day, Brad. So let's fast forward 24 hours. What are we saying at the end of day 2?
At the end of day two for the series, for the excitement of the series, I'm hoping that England are 3 down, probably 50 runs behind Australia's total out that stage. Harry Brook just starting to build an innings, and let's see the best of Harry Brook, where he plays a little bit of that conservative game. But on day 3, when he comes out, he starts attacking the Australian bowlers and really enforcing his presence, because I think he can turn this series around on his own bat.
Brilliant stuff, Brad. Thanks so much for your input as ever. Always fascinating to chat to you and hear your thoughts. It's always good to get the Australian take on things as well. We've had loads of comments on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. Nasty About It says all of the wickets were thrown away by the Aussies. There's nothing in the wickets. Stark can get wickets anywhere though if he bends his back, and he does always bend his back. He also follows up, Root can make a century if he believes in himself and tries to stay and hit the ball on the ground. England winning depends on how long they stay at the crease. Bazball won't work. England need to put a price on their wickets. NZ Deplorable says, to be fair, Australia have thrown their wickets away. It certainly wasn't due to good bowling. I mean, it does ask the question, or lead to the question, what happens when there is good bowling? You know, if the batting conditions might get a little bit easier, that may be true. But I don't know. I find it. I think tomorrow is going to be very different, Harmy. I think that Root will be playing Root's game. Pope will put a big price on his wicket for obvious reasons, because he can't afford to fail in this test match and England to go down 3-0 down, and I think you might see changes in the batting order. Brook is an interesting one because he's come out and called some of his shot selection shocking. So I think he will modify his game, and we saw Stokes do exactly that. But at the top of the order, I don't see any change from Duckett and Crawley. And truth be told, I think that's probably the best way to go about things tomorrow.
There, I think when you look at Ben Duckett has been, I think he's been got out by good bowling. I think he's got a vulnerability for me. If I was bowling at Ben Duckett, I'd be bowling half volleys on off stump and wanting him to hit me straight. And if he hit me for a couple of fours back past me, I wouldn't be that bothered, because I know that's where I can get him out when the left shoulder comes in and he comes across it and he nicks it with a straight bat. I think Stark's bowled really well at him on that front. And we've seen glimpses of Crawley. I hope Ollie Pope has a good day. But the interesting one for me is Harry Brook. Because if Harry Brook can leave that ball that he's been sort of pushing outside off stump, 4th, 5th stump, that Australia are obviously going to bowl to, then I think he can have a good day, because this boy is so talented and he's due. And I think hopefully the little bit of, not ridicule, but a little bit of stick that he's been getting will stand him in good stead to fight back and power back. I've got no worries on Joe Root, the way he played in the last game, and on this surface, you feel as though, you know, if he gets in, this could be a wicket where he really sort of bats for a long period of time, and that will be key, because if he does bat for a long period of time, and we are taking Scott Boland and Pat Cummins into their 3rd, 4th, 5th spells, then all of a sudden our numbers 6, 7, and 8, who have a little bit like when you mentioned Matt Pryor's name earlier, and that 2010-11 team, where the year before and 2 years after, where they had, you know, the likes of Peterson coming in at 5, you had a Pryor at 7, Swan at 8, a Broad at 9, where carefree, bowlers tired, swing from the hip. England have got that, but the problem that we haven't got is they earn the right to give them the chance to take the game away when we are tired bowlers, 400 and whatever for 5, and put pressure on and get that little bit extra in the batting first innings to win the game. And that, for me, is something that England need to do tomorrow, because they've got the tools. I think they've got the ability. They've got the talent. It's all been about the brain cells. And I think hopefully they've learned how to bat on this surface by watching Alex Carey. Now, there's no real demons in it. And that, for me, is what hopefully will stand Brook, especially in good stead tomorrow, because I think it's a big innings for Harry Brook in this in the context of this series, but also the context of his career as well. Responsibility, vice captain, 30-odd test matches. Harry Brook needs to stand up because, yes, he's averaging 50, but can you do it in a big series away from home? He done it in Pakistan, done it in New Zealand, not chance to India. This will be a big statement of Harry Brooks to go and make a big score in this game and get England back in the series.
The other reason for batting long, of course, is because you don't want to be seeing those England bowlers trooping out half an hour after the tea break, do you? Because they did look knackered. They did look tired today. They all bowled, 2 or 3 spells. Stokes pushing 20 overs. If they have to come out again, then that's when you really would start to be fearful. Giving up, I don't know, an 80-run lead, something like that, and the likes of Archer and Carson Tongue having to come out and do it all over again, Stokes. Then you've really got a problem. I mean, essentially, Harmy, day 2 at Adelaide is where England are either going to lose the Ashes effectively, or they're going to keep it alive, isn't it? We've had Mikey 7-8. Archer will get hammered in the second innings. Travis Head will crack 100 in the second innings. England they've just got to bat 89. Well, they've got about 90 overs. If they bat 90 overs, they'll score fast enough to get up to where they need to be, 400 or so, 420. They're not going to win the game batting 90 overs, you wouldn't have thought, but they can get ahead of the game. And surely this is a pitch, especially with Will Jacks coming in at 8 and Carson at 9, surely England have got what it takes to bat 90 overs.
Yeah, I mean, the questioning Jofra Archer there, and I mean, if we mocked Jofra Archer having a pillar. If he can spend the next 36 hours closely, in close proximity to that pillar,
well, I brought a pillar to work.
Yeah, and England have got a chance, because you're right. England bowl coming out at tea time tomorrow and bowling again. Not only does it finish the Ashes, I think it might finish a few bodies off as well. I think Ben's body becomes under jeopardy. I think Jofra's body becomes under jeopardy, because they can't keep having this short of a rest. So, yeah, 100% agree with all that. The Head one, it's interesting, Hogg, you mentioning that. Travis Head going back down the order. I think a lot of people were, from England point of view, and I was certainly an advocate, that if Travis Head stays at the top of the order, that's good for England. He might get them off to a good start every now and again, but over the course of a 10-inning series, I think the new ball will do for Travis more than Travis gets the new ball. So I think that could be an interesting watch, what happens in the second innings, whether Australia might change their batting order. But first things first, England have to give Jofra Archer at least a day and a bit to put his boots up, along with Cars, along with Tongue. And if Jofra's coming out to bowl at, say, 2:30 Adelaide time on day 3, then all of a sudden I think England, not only from a runs point of view, will be in a really strong position. They could be in a strong position from a bowling point of view, because then their bowlers will have a session in a bit to get themselves revved up, to start the ball rolling in the third innings, moving day, and then have a night's sleep, fresh legs to come back the next day. And that's got to be England's game plan for the next sort of 2 days of this Test match.
What did you think of the Harry Brook drop of Usman Khawaja? It was one of the rare occasions when an outside edge was taken. In fact, it was the only occasion where an outside edge flew into the slip cordon. And what I found interesting was, Labuschagne, Khawaja, Carey a bit, but when they punched, didn't they? Or they timed the ball. There was no flourish. There was no follow through with the bat. And the only time, there was 2 times that I can remember when a batter did follow through with the bat. One was Travis Head, when the bat handle turned in his hand and he was caught. And the other time was when Khawaja was dropped by Harry Brook. And I'm hoping, though not expecting, England have watched that and just thought to themselves, hang on, okay, we can punch through the covers. We can push the ball down the wicket, but when we do so like the Australians have done. We put away those big booming cover drives that we've seen Ollie Pope and Zach Crawley get out to this series. Let's see if that happens tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think the big sort of follow through, flourish and finish. I think what that does to the modern batter and the technique is knocks their balance, and it knocks them off balance, and it pushes their head position in a position where it probably shouldn't be, and that's why it ends up going to slip. On the Harry Brook catch, hands up, you should have caught it. Simple as that. As an international test match slip fielder, Harry will sit there and go, "Sorry lads, I should have caught that." Right. So I'm not gonna defend him on that. He should have been taken. I'll throw some things in on why it was made difficult. It was at a time where the wicket was still a little bit soft. It was a time where the wicketkeeper and slips had to come up to the crease, because up to a little bit closer, maybe 2 yards closer than what they should be, because of the slowness of the surface. And because of the angle of the ball going away, it probably would have been a catch to third slip's right hand, as opposed to Harry Brook having to dive and get full stretch towards his left hand. I said that, he got two hands to it, so he will believe, and he should have probably taken it. But these are the things that, like you mentioned, there was a big flourish of the bat. He expected possibly it to come a little bit quicker. It looked as though his hands were low and his fingers were down as opposed to potentially up. And I think that didn't help him. And I think because they were standing close, I think it all happened so quickly that the ball hit Harry, rather than Harry sort of, when you take a slip catch, you take it and then you take it in, as opposed to the ball hitting you and startling you. And I think all that thrown into the melting pot is why he dropped it. But at this moment in time, sitting there in the dressing room, I would imagine Harry Brook will say, "You know what, lads, sorry, I should have caught it."
Okay. Harmy, thank you for your time today. You're also on the Sports Breakfast Show. Updates will continue overnight on talkSPORT throughout extra time, starting off with Sports Bar, early Sports Breakfast, and then the Sports Breakfast Show. And myself and Harmy will be back tomorrow as well. This is available if you're just joining us on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, or tuned in to talkSPORT 2, and you want to hear the start of the show, then head over to the following on podcast feed, where you'll be able to download and listen to the show in its entirety. Harmy and I will be back following day 2 in Adelaide from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. UK time. But for now, thanks for joining us here on Following On Ashes Inquest.